This is the first monetary policy statement of the current financial year 2022-23. I welcome everyone to this statement, which will be followed subsequently at 12 o'clock by the usual press conference. 2 years ago, in March 2020, we began a journey to fight the onslaught of COVID-19 on our economy with courage and determination. During the period thereafter, the Reserve Bank has successfully navigated its course through turbulent waters. While the pandemic has scarred our psyche and tested our resilience, we have responded with bold, unconventional, and resolute measures to stabilize the economy through the 3 waves of the pandemic. As the situation normalized, we have taken measures towards rebalancing liquidity conditions while ensuring that our actions are nimble and proactive but well-timed. Now, 2 years later, as we were emerging out of the pandemic situation, the global economy has seen tectonic shifts beginning 24th February, with commencement of the war in Europe, followed by sanctions and escalating geopolitical tensions. We are confronted with new but humongous challenges: shortages in key commodities, fractures in international financial architecture, and fears of deglobalization. Extreme volatility characterizes commodity and financial markets. While the pandemic quickly morphed from a health crisis to one of life and livelihood, the conflict in Europe has the potential to derail the global economy. Caught in the cross-current of multiple headwinds, our approach needs to be cautious but proactive in mitigating the adverse impact on India's growth, inflation, and financial conditions. We are, however, reassured by the strong buffers that we have built over the past few years, including large foreign exchange reserves, significant improvement in external indicators, and substantial strengthening of the financial sector, all of which would help us to weather this storm. Please note that I'm emphasizing on 3 different aspects which places us in a position that would enable us to deal with the emerging crisis and the challenges. The first, significant improvement in the external sector. The second, foreign exchange reserves, which are at very comfortable levels. And third, substantial strengthening of the financial sector. I will be dwelling upon this in detail in the later part of my statement. Once again, we in the Reserve Bank stand resolute and in readiness to defend the economy and navigate out of the current storm. Let me now turn to the decisions and deliberations of the Monetary Policy Committee. Against this backdrop, the Monetary Policy Committee, that is MPC, met on 6th, 7th, and 8th April, and based on an assessment of the macroeconomic situation and the outlook, voted unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 4%. The MPC also decided unanimously to remain accommodative while focusing on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation remains within the target going forward while supporting growth. The marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate and bank rate, remain unchanged at 4.25%. Further, it has been decided by the Reserve Bank to restore the width of the liquidity adjustment facilities, that is the LAF, LAF, that is the LAF corridor, to 50 basis points, 50 to 50 basis points, the position that prevailed before the pandemic. The floor of the corridor will now be provided by the newly instituted Standing Deposit Facility, SDF, which will be placed 25 basis points below the repo rate, that is at 3.75%. I shall explain the details in this regard in the later part of my statement. Let me first dwell upon the MPC's rationale for its decision on the policy rate and the stance. Since the MPC's last meeting in early February 2022, the expected positive benefits from the ebbing of the Omicron wave have significantly changed Omicron wave have been offset by the sharp escalation in geopolitical tensions. Let me just read this sentence again. Since the MPC's last meeting in February 2022, the expected positive effects of the Omicron wave, expected positive benefits from the ebbing of the Omicron wave have been offset by sharp escalation in geopolitical tensions. This has significantly changed the external and domestic landscape. Concerns over protracted supply disruptions have rattled global commodity and financial markets. Given the significant share of the two economies engaged in the war in global production and exports of key commodities like oil and natural gas, wheat and corn, palladium, aluminium and nickel, edible oil and fertilizers. Now these are, I have listed out the points which basically are at the root of the concerns over the protracted supply disruptions which are causing all these turbulence and in all these areas. So concerns over protracted supply disruptions have rattled commodity and financial markets. Given the significant share of the two economies engaged in war in global production and exports of key commodities like oil and natural gas, wheat and corn, palladium, aluminium and nickel, edible oil